Hello YouTube, how's it going? We're going to be covering the 9 Moons power ranking for Guilty Gear Strive. Totsugeki, hold up. There's an actual, like, wait. Wee! That's like really funny. It's like, wee! Hello YouTube, welcome to another amazing stream. We're going to be doing a power ranking, or actually it's not power ranking. We're really not trying to determine like our own power ranking. What we're really trying to do here is we're going to cover who's on the list for Guilty Gear Strive that 9 Moons created, which if you don't know 9 Moons, they're a really prominent online tournament series, really great people. Like I highly recommend like you check out their tournament series and actually like go out and support it. The thing is though, is that this has been probably like the biggest discussion in the Strive community since the announcements of doing power rankings. So it's really important to kind of like see what they put on there, but also kind of understand why there's like pros and cons to this on top of the fact that like, okay, the list is out now. So what does this mean moving forward? With that being said, first things first, if you don't know what power rankings are, and if you're not from the Smash community, power rankings are basically a list of players that are considered probably one of your strongest players, and they're usually determined by the amount of tournaments that they have on their record. It's like a whole formula, and it's pretty much like a ranking system that the community goes ahead and creates. Usually in FGC, we don't really see this because, for one, a lot of the seeding that happens during tours, they're not usually done by the community. They're usually done by either the league points or if you've qualified in the tournaments. So usually this need for a power ranking doesn't really happen as often as you think it would happen. Like it's like something that like if someone does it, it's truly community based, and it's truly like not to be taken as seriously, even though some people may say, hey, this is supposed to be like the standard or whatever the case may be. So that's why in this video, we're going to be like really focusing on the fact that like it is not to be taken as someone's level of skill. If anything, this is supposed to be a way to talk about how like something that is big as this really brings the community to talk about and sort of challenge each other, while also kind of discussing like the pros and cons of having something like this exist within the community. Because of 9 Moons, you know, there has been other power rankings that have been launched, like Melty's power rankings, I think they did. And yeah, it's been something that is definitely a hot topic. Any player that I feel like doesn't really should be in that spot, that's what we're gonna actually like put them in fighting game combo. So feel free to check them out. They're a really awesome database, especially if you're like someone that like you're commentating. This is a great way to kind of get like brush up on some knowledge. So we're going to be using this to kind of determine like placements as well as like compare and contrast for this purpose. So first is we have the I think it was top 40. Yeah, so this is from 50 to 40 that we're going to be checking out here. So a couple of things based on what I've listened and heard from 9 Moons. Panelists, so for example, like Yurikov, Diaphone, they were not supposed to rank themselves. So Yurikov listed here, even though he is a panelist, was probably placed there by the other panelists, is what I've been told. Now there's a couple of things that like I have opinions on about that, but we'll get to that like later. The other thing too is that many of the tournaments that were counted, there were some that weren't, and then there were some that were. A lot of them included online tournaments, so like Can Opener, TNS, probably 9 Moons, because I can only imagine that like 9 Moons is one of the biggest monthlies. So that was counted. Not all majors were counted, but yeah. Starting first with Scambolini. Scambolini does travel and does like play in a lot of tournaments, including online and offline. So it's not surprising. Like I'm actually pretty okay with Macmans and Scambolini. What I'd like to actually see is like where Yurikov is in a lot of these tournaments. I feel like Yurikov, what carried here for the panelists was the offline tournaments, right? So let's go ahead, and I want to actually look up something here. Hopefully Yurikov. Okay, there you go. Oh wow, there's a lot of Yurikovs. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay, and then I'd like to actually look up Mike Saftig. Perfect. Yeah, okay. So this is where the data starts getting a little bit skewed and kind of a little crazy, because if we're looking at what's going on, the major tournaments that I'm pretty sure were counted were TNS, two of these TNSs, Frosties, and I want to say mostly TNS. These and then the 9 Moons Monthly. So these other tournaments that you see here are like probably not part of the data that 9 Moons has. Then when we come over here to, like, for example, Mike Saftig, there's a lot more to work with compared to what Yurikov has in just 2023. 2022 definitely has a lot to work, has a lot. And even then, Mike Saftig, like, look at this. This is pretty high up there. So what I would like to actually check out, though, is like what counts for Mike, right? So obviously we determined that TNS is definitely one of those tournaments that are being like counted. Frosties is another one. I don't even think that it was this Frosties that was counted because of the, maybe it was. I think they mentioned it probably. So here we have TNS again, right? We have, I think Ember's monthly tournament was one of them as well. And then we have another TNS. This is a 9 Moons, so we probably safe to say that we can count those. Another TNS and another TNS. So if we compare this data to where Mike Saftig is and where Yurikov is, Yurikov, with the few that he's played, he has like 33rd, 49th, 65th, and 17th. He's definitely should be below Mike Saftig, which he is. I know a lot of people were like, oh, panelists, why are they on the list? This makes sense. If they work around this line of thinking, which I want to say they were when it came to the data, definitely makes sense why Yurikov is listed up here. And the same thing again, if we can even take a look at Macmans, because Yurikov is still like that better player than Numbers, right? So if we look at Macmans, TNS, Frosties, TNS, this is actually a better example, because I would even say here with these TNS placements, he was doing better. So if anything, Macmans should be a higher, would probably be the 47th with Numbers 49th. But that's if you like really want to get super detailed onto it. But again, the data showing that like with just a few TNSs that Macmans has does way better compared to Yurikov, who's got him 49th, 65th, 17th, 33rd, where Macmans consistently 9th, 7th, 9th, 13th. Even with the more TNS on his belt, still averages better than Yurikov. So I don't think, and also does better than Numbers too. I mean, we can take a look at Numbers as well and compare. And still does considerably better. So not sure why Macmans is down here. but it happens. You know, those are the little things where, like it, you know, some what Nine Moons has said is that they averaged everybody's like choices, and that's where this line stands. Makes sense, but you know, when you have a player like Yurikov, yes, he's better than, or rather, yes, he's not as good as Mike Saftig, but you know, Nuppers is definitely below MacMan's, probably Scambolini too. But those are like minute details and not something that like I can I can definitely chalk it up to like an average, right? So we'll take a look at Zentai, and then we're gonna take a look at we're gonna look at Papel first. Okay. So Ember's Monthly, 33rd. Frosty Faustine, 65th. Nine Moons, 9th. But that's usually the weekly. TNS, 17th. Embers, 9th. TNS, 25th. TNS, 33rd. If we go back just a little bit, the last big placement that they had was CEO Taku. I feel like that's probably why an ECT, I'm not sure if they counted ECT. I think they counted Evo too. So some of these offlines in 2022 are probably why like Zentai was is below Papel, because if we go back to Papel, so we have Frosties. Already placements are a lot better than Zentai's, like right off the bat from the like 4 TNSs that are happening. Smitty, which is from Nine Moons, and this one I think it's more of like, I feel like it's pretty obvious. Like let me look real quick. Smitty. So we have Frosty Faustines, we have Guilty Gear, we have Ember's Charity. If we go back a little bit, this is interesting. See, this is where I'm kind of like, why is Smitty so high up here compared to like, quite honestly, compared to someone like Yurikov? Maybe a better example would honestly be like, maybe it's Anima? No, I think it would be Zentai. Actually, let's use Zentai here as an example. Yeah, let's use Zentai here as an example. So if you look here, Smitty, yes, he placed well in Frosties, better than Zentai. That makes sense in terms of like if you were just basing it off of Frosties. But Tampa Never Sleeps, 66, the 5th. Okay, Zentai placed 17th. That was a placement. Ember's Monthly Charity Project placed 25th, but Zentai actually placed 9th there. Okay, go back a couple of months. What does Smitty have? Only like the 9 moons if we want to keep it counting. Whereas Zentai has another TNS, 33rd, has another TNS, 25th, has DreamHack Atlanta, 13th, Kumite, if you counted Kumite. If you didn't count Kumite, I think they counted DreamHack Atlanta. So, you know, Smitty didn't make it to DreamHack Atlanta. The next notable tournament would be a 9 Moons Weekly. That was 17th. And I'm pretty sure if I look here, I'm sure Zentai played in one of them. If not, like, again, we look at the numbers. Ember, 17th, CEO Taku, 33rd. Where is that offline? So is it that you play, like, is Smitty's placement just based on the online tournaments that they did really well in 23? Or did they actually go all the way to like Evo, for example? But if that's the case, why is Smitty not where Zentai is and Zentai's higher, right? Or like this shifts where it's Anima that's higher, Papel, and then Smitty is like where Zentai is. My overall point is when we look at events that are counting, technically speaking, the data is showing that the only thing that Smitty has over Zentai is placements. And that's with just a few tournaments. Because again, the next relative tournament is a 9 Moons Weekly and Evo, right? Whereas Zentai has more notable tournaments, a more consistent placement, and has a bigger track record. This one was also interesting. Zeddiah. I also wanted to check this out because this is someone that like I'm not even familiar. Here he is. The most relevant off of just 2023 is Frosty Faustines. If we go back to 2022, CEO Otaku and Evo. Why is Zeddiah marked as number 40 when really he should be number 50? If you're gonna count him. That's like that this doesn't make sense to me. Because if we look, again, Frosty Faustines 17th, okay. CEO Otaku 25th, okay. Evo 65th, okay. Combo Breaker 17th, okay. Like what makes these count? I think the thing is that like there's no like there's that to Narcoon that they aren't transparent with the list of tournaments, but they don't like it's not just being about like what tournaments counted, it's also of like what is the value that you've given it? Like you're telling me that if we look at Smitty is below Zeddiah? When Zeddiah has just been mostly to offlines? Because these all look like offlines. And they're locals too. Whereas Smitty has been in the same criteria of Frosties, TNS, Ember Charity, 9 Moons, and then the last one being Evo. Let's actually go to Scambolini. Already in 2023, TNS, Frosty Faustines. If you even want to go as far as to a local, first consistently in the locals, 2022, consistently first in the locals, Holiday Matsuri 5th, DreamHack Atlanta 7th, CEO Otaku 33rd. 25th, okay, yeah, makes sense, but like already Scambolini's the one that has like I would put Zeddiah in 50 and then Scambolini in like the 40th spot, not gonna lie. If we're now moving towards like, okay, wait, you know, Zeddiah did X amount of tournaments. But again, what's the classification? And I think this is the biggest thing because now moving forward into this power ranking, well, that's the thing. Even with the 22 placement in 2022, Scambolini does way more and places way more consistently than Zeddiah does. Believe it or not, I actually want to compare this to someone like K7 Show Off. Not saying K7 Show Off's not good, but K7 Show Off should not be that high, to be honest with you. And you're probably going to be like, why, Saki? Well, I'm going to tell you why in just a second. So, test your luck. Frosty Faustines 65th, TNS 13th, 9 Moons Weekly 13th, Embers 25th, TNS 17th. Already doing way more, right? And also placing. Show Off. Frosty Faustines was not there, so that you can't even count that one. TNS 67 65th, 22 in 2022, DreamHack Atlanta 33rd, Kumite 65th, DTN 65th, CO Otaku 25th, East Coast Throwdown 3rd, Evo 25th. My point. K7 Show Off has less tournaments, not as a very like high placement, but is it because these tournaments that he was in more heavier than what Test Your Luck has done? He shouldn't be in 29th because he hasn't really like fully played. Except when he has, he's not even reaching top 8. The last top 8 he made was East Coast Throwdown. And Can Opener, that was the last online top 8. And I'm actually going to get to that. But first I wanted to talk about Tempest and I wanted to talk about Bean. Tempest first, right? Bean 5th, 13th, okay. Second at DTN. First at DTN. Bean beat Tempest at DTN. CO Otaku, second. CO Otaku, 7th. Tempest got 7th at CO Otaku, and Bean got 2nd. Evo, 7th. Evo, 7th as well. If you're gonna base this on strictly the offline, Bean is the better player than Tempest. If you're gonna count the online, Bean is still the better player than Tempest. So why is Tempest number 1? Unless you're saying that the first Frosty's Major moved everybody up. But then again, if that was the case, this list should be even more out of order because Frosty's was that heavy tournament. So why? Umisho didn't participate, but like for example, the finals is gonna happen. She didn't need to participate. Is kind of like where I'm coming from. Like Umisho is still like I feel the number 1 player right now, where she didn't really need to compete at these offlines. She just has the what's under her belt currently, which is Evo, right? So it's kind of like, how do you rank Umisho? Well, she didn't play. Okay, well, how, like, this comes back to how are you valuing the tournaments? Because if you're valuing the majors for each of the Strive stops, they should be the highest that someone could like achieve as far as like, let's say it's like 10 points, right? Let's say 10 points is your majors. So it's Frosty's, CEO, Evo, Combo Breaker, CEO Otaku. Let's just say that is 50 points. If you placed really well in those 50 points, right? Or in those majors, in those 5 majors, you should like that's like where your chunk of your points are. Then we can move down to the smaller offline tournaments like Holiday Matsuri, DreamHack, those type. We can count those as like 5 points. And then when you get to the online tournaments, you can count those as like your 1-pointers, where literally it's like, okay, this helps you, but it doesn't help you as much as you think it does. Which, you know, again, we come back here to like at the beginning of this video where you have like Scambolini, Macmans, like these are where you're gonna see like the most like, oh wait, they're like on that threshold, so that 1 point's gonna help them. But when we come through here, right, these are the people that have placed really well in these majors that are like those 10-pointers. So why is it that like we see Tempest, we see Neubenheimer, but like Bean, Jonathan, Aaron, like Peppery Splash, like these almost look like this was from the recent Frosties that like determined this like 1 through 10, right? Doesn't make sense. it's definitely something that, like, okay, we have the PR, right? We have the power ranking now. What is a season? That's the first question. What is a season? Who's determining who's moving forward? Like, who's like going to move these players around, right? What are the tournament values at? And what's counting more, online or offline? Is power rankings are an opinion, just like the tier lists. Don't take them seriously. Enjoy the content that you can make out of it. Enjoy the memes that are coming out of it. And just play because you like the game. Play because you want to get better. Play because nobody else should be determining what you yourself should be valuing. If you say you're a good player, that should come from you saying, hey, I'm a good player because I do X, Y, and Z. Not, hey, I'm a good player because I'm on the Strive PR list that, doesn't really mean anything. Because not even TOs are taking this seriously. TOs are pretty much just looking at this and like, who's number 1 through 10? Okay, cool. If you're all in the bracket, I just need to make sure y'all don't fight each other. That's it. That's literally what this is. So, at the end of the day, play who you want. Play how you like. You spent the money on the game. If you want to get better, talk to people that are actually going to help you, motivate you, and talk positive about you. And not about having their egos stroked. That's it.